weeks. So again,
how much more do you think you achieved for that investment of 800?
I reckon we got them about 10 grand more than what it would have looked like previous.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's a difficult one to know, isn't it? But
yeah,
it's hard to quantify, but I think it's worth. The other agent would have got them around the 400, and I got them 410.
Excellent.
Now my fee was higher, but so they'll pay me probably an extra 2 grand in addition on my fee. But funnily enough, if you take 800 times by 10, that's your 8 grand. So they netted more, and I netted more. But one of the biggest things I see with my current agents is, and this is the high street mentality, is you do your lead, the high street mentality mixed with Keller Williams. I call it the Keller Williams relief in a way, and that is, I've done all my lead gen, I've done my handwritten notes, I've done my daily 10-4. That great. And I've been instructed, yes, I've got one on. That is where the journey starts. That for me is where you have to turn around and say, listen, I'm not here to market your property, I'm here to get it sold. And we need to work together as a partnership in order to allow me to negotiate the best price the market will allow. And we have some pretty rubbishy photos on at the moment, and we have some properties where for want of better words, you could tart them up very quickly, very easily, and they would go. So that's something I'm working on. In fact, I was hoping a number of my agents to be on today, so they were getting told off because it's so important. And I guess that the final piece before I finally let Jason speak is this is commonplace in a number of countries outside of the UK. In the US, in Cincinnati, 56% of properties get staged, or they did in 2018. I'm not sure the 2019, 2020 figures, right? Why do they do that? Because it showcases the property. And I guess the final bit of my final point is, like Lars opened with, the day you list your property is the day you don't live in it anymore. It becomes a show home, and you need to help your clients discover that that's the true reality of when they sell, if they want to get the best price in the shortest possible time.
Excellent, thanks. Jason?
Yeah, I think there's some really great points there. So thank you, Chris, and thank you, Lars. If I may just for a moment have a bit of a rant, because the seller staging tactic as described in this book, I don't think goes far enough.
No.
Now, I would describe it as upstaging. We as agents have the opportunity to upstage the competition. That starts with our details. Before we even start talking about furniture, curb appeal, etc., it starts with our details. Let me tell you, these agents that call themselves bespoke and different, the vast majority of them are talking absolute BS, because they are no different to everybody else. So, you know, I don't want to name names, but we all have them working within our businesses. And there's plenty of Keller Williams agents that do not understand the differences and the opportunity they have to upstage the competition. What they do is they do a generic write-up that they've always used. It's a copy and paste job. Okay. You know, I love Lars's, wedding analogy. We treat those listings like we treat all of them, which is wrong, because using Lars's analogy, we get married once, hopefully. So if we're putting that property to market, we have an opportunity to upstage the competition. And really importantly for me, you're not doing that just to sell that property. It's going to sell. You're doing that because you want your future customers to look at your details and look at the property as a whole, not just a listing. They want to, as a staged property, they want to look at that listing and go, do you know what? That Chris Buckler's details, his exposure, his write-up, his photographs, his floor plan, the whole thing is amazing, and I want some of that. That's
Jason, can I ask a question? So here in Suffolk, the property instructions are written very pompous, and then they still sort of, the same. This well-presented property, convenient. Now, I used to live in Australia, and there the real estate would be like heading the entertainer. People, you know, you can imagine yourself sitting and having a cocktail near the pool and everything. I don't know if, you know, whether this country is ready for that, or whether that's the wrong, you know, to make it more informal and more aiming at the desired audience, or whether that could be a refreshing change to what the vanilla, you know, this easy to sort of maintain property.
Do you mind if I jump in and answer that, Simon? So if you look at video ads, so adverts between the news and whatever else, over the last 20 years, they have all switched from the product to emotion, because people buy with emotion, which links to your Simon Sinek, etc. The reason I share that with you is Rightmove, Zoopla on the market, our own Keller Williams UK. It's all about, I treat it as SEO. So I've got to get, first and foremost, the photos that stand out have to be different. Then the short paragraph at the start of the description is so important. And you're completely right. My goal for every single agent is to increase their click-through rate, because it will lead to viewings ever so slightly. So anything we can do to stand out from the competition is extremely refreshing. So there's an agency outside of Keller Williams called Mr. and Mrs. Clark, with an E on the end. And they are arguably the best, in my view. This is not Keller Williams. They're arguably the best at property descriptions. So it will be like an Enid Blyton, but like nestled down a quiet alley, or you can imagine sipping on a glass of red wine next to the Inglenut fireplace, whatever it might be, because people buy with emotion. You got to think, most people, and this stat's well out of date now, they're on Rightmove for 8 minutes, they get to page 3 and they get distracted 3 times. So every single time they see a generic photo or a generic description, we are, you know, Keller Williams are delighted to offer a conveniently located 3-bedroom, right? If it's emotive, I'm more likely to connect with that property, even though I haven't been there. And by putting at the bottom of your description why the vendor chose to buy that property and their best memories, you've got a sense of attachment. So for me, whenever I do any description, I leverage it to my wife, but I tell her what I want it to say, and then she makes it sound a lot better. So there's definite room for it. And again, when you're pitching, and you can say, hey, listen, my last property, this was the description. Can you have a look through before I come round at the listing? Straight away, you've got a differential. Straight away, you're saying, this was, you know, another. Look at how we do it. So yes, we're definitely ready for it.
There are some statistics out there, Chris, and interestingly, there was some mouse price data back from February of this year, which suggested that staged homes that were professionally staged, could achieve 15% more than those that weren't staged.
Wow.
You know, we know that when we look at second-hand values to new values, typically a new home is sold for 20% more than a second-hand home. Now, that isn't just because it comes with a guarantee, it's because it's brand new. So it's been staged, it's brand new, it looks like it has a guarantee. Why don't we sell our second-hand homes in the same way? So the data suggests to me that a properly staged home can achieve as much as 15% more than a badly staged or badly advertised home.
Which actually brings me on to the first thing that it says in that chapter, which is what you see is what you get. But it also goes on to say, and will pay for.
Yeah.
So just remember that it's not just what you see is what you get, it's what you're prepared to pay for. So the better you see and the nicer it is that you see, and the more of a blank canvas for you to be able to turn into your dream home, the more you will value that in your mind. And I think it's a bit like clutter. If you could imagine clutter as being rocks, you wouldn't fill your house full of rocks so you can't see the beauty of the room. You know, and it's the same thing. Get the rocks out of there, get the clutter out of there. Let's open it up. And as Chris mentioned earlier, you know, you have to get the customer's agreement for you to be transparent, open. We talked about the word honest. I don't like the word honest, because it kind of means that you might not be honest the rest of the time. So, you know, it's about asking their permission of being candid with them. I think candid is a lovely word, Chris, that you used there. Okay, any feedback on what we've said so far, guys? Anybody struggled with getting the agreement from a customer to be candid in any way?
Lars, can I just say, what I found is if there is an obvious problem in a property, like a crack that could be fixed, something very obvious, I find then that the buyers then look for more problems. Yeah. So if those obvious things are fixed, then the buyers don't look for the niggly little bits.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
I mean, my suggestion is always, and this is not an easy skill to have, but obviously being an agent for many years and having close connections with surveyors, it means you get an eye for these things. So when you go and view the property, you can ask for permission to be critical. And very often a first-time seller can't understand or can't see for themselves that, you know, you've got some roof tiles that are missing, or you've got a downpipe that's not connected, or condensation problem somewhere in the property. So you can head these things off, have a conversation with them, be candid, and explain to them that these things could affect the saleability. When the surveyor comes round, the surveyor's not turning up with any emotion at all. They've just got a job to do. Whether they downvalue it or they value it, what the buyer's paying for it, is not really relevant. So actually, that can be a really refreshing conversation to have with a seller and put them at ease to say, look, I am experienced, and would this be a useful discussion as we walk around the property? If I see things that I think are going to affect what the surveyor says, what he or she thinks and puts down their report, can we have that conversation as we go around?
There are the things that determine somebody buying a property, making an offer on a property, is location. We've all heard that. Location, location, location. It's size, it's amenities, and it's the condition of the property. The first one can't be changed. Okay, location, it is where it is. The size, difficult to change, but you can make it look bigger without physically changing the size by just, you know, using spatial awareness. But it's really the amenities and the condition that you can totally control. Okay, and you can make sure that you use cost-effective solutions. It doesn't have to cost a fortune, and I think there is this thought process that staging a home is about getting Lawrence Llewellyn-Bowen in, you know, and paying him 50 grand to redesign your house, and they're going to move all your furniture out, and then you're going to bring in show furniture. And yes, on some properties, you do have to go to those lengths to actually get top dollar for that property. But in most property cases, you know, it's not justified to spend 20 grand on, you know, totally staging a property. But you are in property, you see what sells, you see what people like, and just have a look on the portals at other properties in that area, in that price range, and see what they kind of look like. And I'm telling you now, if there's something that looks better internally than your property, that's probably ahead in terms of possibility of getting it sold and not selling yours. So look at the competition in your local area.
Yeah, I think I can give you a great example, Lars, of that before and after conversation. So rather than us telling sellers that home staging works, by showing them an example of a before and an after, we work quite closely here at Bromley with a particular lady who's local, she'll have a free consultation on the phone with you, have a chat. What are your needs? So it leverages the agent's time and leverages the agent's responsibility to have that conversation, because they're an agent, they're not necessarily good at home staging. But we did some virtual staging on a house, been on the market. It was on the market at 400,000 for 4 months, haven't sold, and agent was charging 1%. New agent goes in and says, look, it's a lovely property, but it's not staged. It was an ex-rental property, so just white, grey carpet, white walls, and they'd had 30 or 40 viewers the previous agent, a couple of abortive sales. And so a new agent goes in and says, we'll virtually stage the property, £50 a room, we'll put some furniture in there so that when you're looking at it online, you can actually see, oh, well, a bed will go in there, a sofa and table and chairs will go in that space. And it was sold within 4 weeks. Agent agreed a 1.25% fee, and it was sold at 425. So the price went up 25 grand.
Yeah.
So, and there's some real examples out there from agents, and there's, so you haven't got to tell a seller, show a seller, here's an example, here's a before and here's an after. I mean, Chris shared that one with us last week, paint a couple of walls, move some furniture around, understand about space, as Lars says, because sometimes you can't see it yourself, can you? Because you're in amongst it. So you need that extra pair of eyes, whether that's the agent or a stager, and literally you can spend a few £100 and you can add thousands of pounds. But more importantly, if we're in a market where there's lots and lots of choice, there's lots of stock and there's less buyers, it's not a case of should I home stage, it's a case of I need to home stage. Yeah, you need to set yourself apart from the competition. And
what would your advice be for a deceased estate where, it's the children or whatever who are organising the sale and don't live there, and it's still got the old furniture in, and maybe...
Interesting discussion. I mean, one of our agents that used to be with us, it's now not, listed a property this week that's a probate, and it's full of crap, it's full of clutter. Clearly, it's, an old person was living there. And his attitude is, well, it's a doer-upper. It needs modernising. But what he's not done, as Lars has just alluded to, he's not shown the full space of the property. So some people will be put off by that. But actually, if you've taken the time to say, look, let's get it cleared. You're going to get it cleared anyway. You're going to need to for completion. Let's get it cleared and clean and polished. It would look so much better. And there'll still be other buyers who would say, do you know what? The Chris Buckler, because Chris has just done this himself, who would say, I can live in it as it is because it's clean, it's tidy. It doesn't remind me of the person who's died in that house because they've left all their personal things in there. I can see myself living there and making some dreams, and I can do these changes as we go along. And Chris might pay 20, 30, 40 grand more than the developer builder who rubs their hands thinking, I'm going to nick this for a cheap price. So the agent's he's done a disservice to his client. And
would you get rid of the handles and the handles around the door and in the bathroom and suggest those go?
I think sometimes you can change handles, you can change light switches, you can change power points, you can change light pendants. You can spend a few £100, you can decorate a room, and then you can say, look, could somebody live here? Could they live here for a year or 2 years until such time? As long as it's safe, it's not dangerous.
No, I was thinking more of the mobility, where they struggle to get in and out the bath, and there's, up the steps, and there's a ramp or something, and it's all those that sort of smack of.
I would personally get rid of those things.
It's quite interesting you say that, because I had an inquiry this morning, came into the office, and I answered it, and the woman said to me, "Oh, it's the property such and such," and I went, "Yeah, great." It said, "It's the one that's been adapted for somebody disabled," and I went, "That's correct." She said, "Does the lift still work that's in the property?" And I said, "I do believe it does." And she said, "Well, we are desperately looking for a property, and that absolutely fits the bill for us, because my mother is disabled, and we see that as a major benefit if the house is already partially equipped for that." So I think you need to be a little bit careful, because it does appeal to some people for that market. It's a difficult one. I think it's like anything else. If it's making the property look dirty, untidy, etc., I think you can explain there are certain things that it costs too much money to take. For example, you can't take a lift out. If you take the lift out, it's a lot of money to take that out. And as it happens, that could be the one thing that sells this property. They're desperate to go and see it. One of the things it says in the book from one of the agents says, I have shifted from rarely staging to doing it every time. Since the internet has replaced the first showing of a property, staging the home for the pictures is the most important marketing thing I do. Now, that's really interesting, isn't it? Especially with COVID and Zoom. And I think we'd all agree that the internet, people are relying on what they see first on the internet and the photos, and it is becoming the first viewing. Whereas before it wasn't. It was, I want to come and view the property, not really interested in the photos. I can see where it is, need to get down there to get an idea of the feel of the place, the size of it, etc. Now, they're not even going to see it unless they've been impressed with what they've seen in the photos or the video. Yeah. And I think it came out of MegaCamp in terms of how many searches there've been on Google for video tours and virtual viewings in the last 6 months. I mean, millions and millions and millions of searches. It's one of the top searches.
Yeah, it's just best use of everyone's time, isn't it, Lars, as well?
Mm.
You know.
Okay.
Chris, do you want to add something?
Yeah, sorry, because I'm conscious we might be slightly behind on the book, so I'll be quick. Simon, just to go back to your point, my view is it depends on, could you move the handles, etc. It depends on what demographic is most likely to move into the area. So if you know it's a young couple or it's going to be a young family, then yes. So the property I bought that Jason alluded to, I did nick it, and they could have got more, not off me because I'm tight, but off someone else in the market if they would have moved the stair lift, if they would have taken the handles on. But a big thing that you can do that doesn't cost that much is, Dominic Marcel does this very well, is digitally stage a few of the main rooms. So put a mirror up, make the fire, change the color of the fireplace, put some different flooring in, which shows the potential. You put that in a description. Again, that will make more people go, oh, we can actually go and have a look at that one.
On page 163 in the book, it talks very much about from curb appeal to closing the deal. And it has a diagram that is on here, which basically shows you that internet listing, promotional flyers or cards, basically then link into curb appeal. In other words, what do they see when they first get there? You know, staging a property isn't just inside the property. It's literally from the curb. So if the bins were normally out the front, try and find somewhere else for the bins. You know, a little bit of weeding, you know, goes an awful long way to actually make a drive look like a drive, as opposed to part of the garden that you've got to park on. So number of things just literally before you even get into the property. And then imagine that your property is a feature film. In other words, you want to come up to the property, you want to go into the entranceway, you want the entranceway to be fresh, appealing and welcoming. And then probably people normally would go through to another main room, either the kitchen, probably whatever the better room is in the ground floor in a conventional sort of house. If the kitchen is really nice, then you kind of want to take people through to the kitchen quite quickly. They will be looking at things like the master bedroom and obviously the bathrooms. You know, properties are sold based on kitchens and bathrooms. I don't know what you guys think. Chris and Jason, what's your experience in terms of what people look for in that?
Yeah, they look at the most expensive things first, Lars, don't they? They'll look, as you say, they'll look at the ladies. We know that 90% of the ladies are the decision makers with the purchase of a home, so appeal to the ladies. And the ladies will look at bathrooms and kitchens more than the guys will do. The ladies will also do what Lars has just suggested. They'll look at the front door, they'll look at the front garden, they'll look at the back garden, and they'll take those things into consideration. So, you know, the bathroom and kitchen makeovers are so simple. They don't have to cost thousands and thousands of pounds. You know, we were always very lucky when I ran my sales business that we had a team of handymen that we could then leverage their time for sellers. And we could say to a seller, you know, there's an opportunity for us to spend a few hundred to add a few thousand. And then we had those guys that could come in and, you know, paint over some tiles in the bathroom. As Chris said, put a mirror up, put some plants in various different key locations, and dress it in those simple ways without necessarily getting a home stager in.
Yeah. I would say that mirrors are a fantastic investment, especially in an entrance hall, because it will just make it look twice the size. It opens the whole thing up. You get another dimension when you look into the mirror. Make sure you put the mirror in the right place so it's reflecting through to a vision of maybe the next room that you want to go to. It's always a good idea to try and make the story better as you go through the property, the wow factor, so that by the time you get through to the back of the house, it's, oh wow, that's just got better, that's just got better, that's just got better. You don't want it to look fantastic from the outside, and then you get inside and the story gets worse and worse and worse. Yeah, we want to make it better and better and improve the story along the way. Talks in the book about the 3 Ps and the 2 Fs. Basically, the 3 Ps they're saying are plantings, i.e. what you have in terms of flowers, paint and pictures. Those are the 3 Ps, and the 2 Fs are fixtures and furnishings. Not too much furnishings, not too much furniture. You know, move some stuff out. If they have a garage, you know, they've got storage to be able to move some things out. Most people do not go and expect to see an empty garage. Okay, you don't have to empty the garage to sell a garage, but you do need to really empty the clutter and the additional furniture that they've, you know, Auntie Nellie left them that rocking chair, and it really just takes up the whole room, that type of thing. Just sensitively suggest things that they could do to open up the space, and always be complimenting the owner of the property as to, wow, I can see why you bought this house. It's got lovely space. It's got lovely light coming in. I think maybe we need to enhance that a bit. Neutral colors are always good. Any other advice that any of you could give each other in terms of experience you've had, in terms of what has made a massive difference to a property being actually appealing?
I'll go, Lars. Smoking and pets.
Yes.
So my best friend said to me when I started up at Keller Williams, can you come round and let my house for me? I said, no problem, take me for breakfast, and I'll charge you a cheap fee. Now, by the way, I should never have charged my friend less, so slap on the wrist for Chris. Right, should probably charged him more. So I turned up, and it was in Forest Hill, you know, dinner party the night before. It was a small kitchen, and it stunk of cigarettes. His dog bowl was out, and his surfaces were awful. Now, being an agent at heart, and I always will be, luckily I had Febreze, and I thought I was turning up for breakfast, and I turned up, and I very quickly turned into a cleaner. And we stacked everything away in the cupboards. I went around and Febreze the hell out of everything. I actually just told him to get out because he was still a bit hungover. I put all the dog, and I call it paraphernalia, the bowls, the leads, everything. Because if people are looking to let or even buy a property, there are certain communities that do not like dogs as a whole. There's certain people, some people are allergic to dogs, whatever it might be. Some people are very pro them, but you have to apply to the whole market. So I put all his dog stuff away. I gave him his dog. I pushed him out the door. Unfortunately, I let it to the first person that came because no one else wanted it. I think the Febreze wore out, and the alcohol and the tobacco smells went up. Why do I share that with you? Again, it's not about getting the listing. Yay. Okay, now I'm going to go and make it a really sexy listing and lead with emotion. Yay. Now I'm going to turn up late because I didn't, the viewing wasn't great, and walk in and it looks absolutely atrocious. And that buyer would have bought had it looked immaculate. So learn from my war stories. Always have some Febreze. in the back of your car. Learn how to karate chop pillows in the middle so they look good, and don't be afraid to put stuff away. And the amount of times I had vendors ring me saying, Chris, have you stolen my shampoo or whatever? But no, you had 5 of them out, so I shoved them all in your airing cupboard.
Yeah.
Make it as presentable as you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. I did Ignite on Friday, and it was about viewings. And one of the things I was, saying there is that always make sure that the bathrooms and toilets are clean, because nothing more off-putting than somebody going around a messy, horrible bathroom. And especially if you're doing a viewing, it's always important to make sure that you leave the house clean, purely because when the owners come back, and it's always best to have the owners out of the house when you do a viewing, they come back and they see that the bathroom is actually a mess. They may assume that it was you that did that while you were doing the viewing. So you just got to always try and keep, that middle ground. Okay, I mean, if you look at Chris's office behind him, Chris, I've not had the pleasure of coming to your office yet. I look forward to that, but I know that when you first got that office, it didn't look like it looks like now. Okay, because what he's done is he could have said, well, what's the point? It's only a workplace. It's only somewhere for people to come and work and that type of thing. But what he wanted to do was create an environment where people wanted to be there. And if you look behind Jason up at Bromley there, he's in an office setup, the same as I am here. I've got a white wall over there. Yes, we've painted some walls red because of Keller Williams. But the whole office setup here, and we're both in Regis offices, is very appealing. It has to be appealing. It has to be neutral. Otherwise, people aren't going to want to come and work there. And it's the same about people wanting to come and live in a property. Okay.
I think for me, Lars, you're right, 100%. It's about having a critical eye. When somebody is advertising a hotel room or a suite, they make sure that the bed's got fresh linen on it, it's freshly made, it's pressed. Yet when agents go and list a house, they let the photographer go to the property. They don't meet the photographer there. The photographer takes the pictures that they're told to take, 2 a room, 3 a room, 1 a room. And they don't move anything because they're just paid to go and take photographs. My advice to agents is, it's a great opportunity for you to meet the photographer, to show the photographer what you would like done, and then to educate the seller or the landlord, whoever it is, on that critical eye that customers will have, because they will spot those things. And as I said at the beginning of the conversation, it just astounds me how badly agents would advertise those properties. They wouldn't advertise an Airbnb or a hotel room in that way, but yet they'll advertise, as Lars says, their biggest asset, and they'll make those mistakes. Dog bowls. We've seen lots of dog and cat bowls, and cigarette ashtrays and that kind of stuff. Overgrown gardens. You've got to, and I've worked with agents who have said, I'm not going to list this property unless it's staged, cleaned and decluttered, because this is my reputation. This is my shop front. This is my shop window. That listing, if I was only allowed to go and list one property, does that mean you're going to use a generic write-up and do the same things that you've always done? Or are you going to actually take some care and have some pride in the presentation of that property? Because that presentation mirrors you as the agent. So if you have one listing, not sure what's happened there.
Oh, Chris has started sharing something.
Oh, go on then. Go on, Chris. Was I boring you, Chris? You're going to pick out a link. We can't hear you for some reason.
Sorry, Jason. I clicked the button prematurely, so apologies.
That's why you need to practice the tantric stuff, Chris. You need to be a bit more careful, yeah?
I do indeed, thank you. But I just wanted to so what you guys are both discussing. So this is the last exchange I've had. So straight away, in terms of the photos, I've not gone for the outside, and I've done something slightly different on the photos. But I wanted to show you the different. I mean, look, this is property over the road. and we broke the ceiling price on this one. This house, when I went into it, was very messy, and they had 2 children. So we went around and we said, right, first and foremost, we need you to stage it. We need you to paint it. We need to build some storage in. But we also did, again, we have to stand out from the crowd, right? So unfortunately, we got rid of the kids. We did arty magazine lifestyle shots, right? That's not a standard estate agent photo. No. We did a 3D tour. We touched stuff up. Again, going on to the description just for Simon, and I'll put a link to this in, please don't think I'm saying I'm the very best agent in the country. Full of character, charm, or spacious, airy, stunning period features, high ceilings, coving cornicing, lovely, sympathetically restored, the heart of the home boasts, etc. Meticulous, all of this good stuff, and then we go into the area. I think for me is what allowed us to get a higher price. So we staged it. We made them so in the garden. Again, I'm not going to waste a lot of time going through all the photos, but in the garden, we actually got them all the fence replaced at the back. All these chopped back so that the owner, the new buyer, had it as key ready. And going back to something Lars said at the start of the conversation, as soon as they start to go, there's one thing wrong there. Oh, I wonder what else is wrong with it. We removed that, and that allowed me to get £66,000 more than what the other agents said they were going to get, and a 2% fee.
And I was going to say, more importantly, your fee was higher. You made more money.
If I asked you a question, Chris, and I ask other agents this same question, are you proud of that, the way that you made that person's home?
I am very proud of it, yeah.
And rightly so, you should be. But if we ask all our agents and all the agents that we are in touch with that same question, we're going to get a very different response, or not necessarily an honest response, or a candid response. Yeah. So if we don't upstage the competition, somebody else will. Yeah.
I love that. I love that upstage, Jason. I think that's. I'm sure I've heard it before, but that's certainly the first time it's gone in, and that is actually what we need to observe the masses and do the opposite, because most agents out there just aren't doing properties justice. They're not doing the price of the property justice, and what you want is to be able to put a sufficient feel and quality into that home that you can kind of take it up to the next price bracket on Rightmove, so that it ends up the cheaper of that price bracket, but looks phenomenal value.
Yeah, and yeah, I completely agree with both of these more experienced gentlemen on the phone. On the call. Yeah. Here's the thing I want to share with you. The property I then showed last week, where they spent 800 quid and I got them the higher piece. I did a screen share last week. They were the buyers of this property. Off the back of it, I negotiated to say as high as I could. I even pushed them actually an extra 500 quid for a bed or what have you. They then turned around to me and said, Chris, we've never seen an agent list as meticulously as you, or genuinely care as much as you. Can you sell my property? I said, where is it? And they told me, and I thought, that's a bit of a slog. And I said, no problem, just to let you know, I'm 2% non-negotiable. And they said, Chris, we'll happily pay that. Can you come and take photos when you come around? So it wasn't even a valuation. Yeah. And that one's now sold as well, right? So this is your advertising. This is your taking something on and then go, I'll do a half-assed job, means that you're turning business away without even knowing it. And the analogy I use is get a £20 note out and burn it. And if you put a crap listing out there, that's exactly what you're doing for your future. You're just burning money.
I think the other way to look at it is that you're all, this is a nugget for you. You're all movie stars and you're only as good as your last movie. Okay. And that's the last property you actually listed. You're only as good as the last one you listed, because that's where you should be getting your referrals from. Yeah. So just like a movie star, they're going to make sure their last film was their best film, so that they get even better films and more money in the future and ask for more parts. So exactly the same here. You're in show business. You're in the property showing business. That's what you're in. And so you need to make it look great. Let's get some nuggets from everybody else as we kind of close out here. One from each of you, maybe. Should we start with Heather? One golden nugget you got from today.
Yeah, I think we do tend to forget that we're not just showcasing that property, we're also showcasing ourselves, and it's a reflection on ourselves. And I think that's something very important to remember when you are showing houses that look like rubbish dumps.
Yeah, exactly. Simon, come to you.
I think there were a couple, but the biggest one was the internet has replaced the first viewing, because that is quite a revelation, and I think it would be to sellers as well.
I think it's a great way of explaining why it's so important now.
Yeah.
And I've just sold my house, and well, I didn't sell it, one of my agents sold it. But what I learned from doing that is that I needed to make the property really presentable for the photographs. And once I'd made it presentable for the photographs and I saw how great the photos were, I never wanted to clutter the house, even though I'm living in it. I wanted to keep it looking like that and enjoy it. And I think that your vendors will actually love it, you know, living in that kind of show home environment and feel quite proud about it. And they're going to also tell other people, which don't forget, that could be a potential buyer, that they may refer to you to show the property.
Yeah.
So
that's a great one actually, Lars. And I'm just thinking about you know, your take on Hollywood or entertainment. And actually, if you were entertaining somebody really, really important to you, would you tidy your house up? Would you declutter? Yeah. Would you polish everything so that they were super impressed with you? Of course you would.
Absolutely.
But agents don't tell sellers or don't ask sellers, would you do the same thing when you're selling your property?
Yeah.
And you know, they want to sell it like Chris's after the party, don't they?
I know.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Do you know people take more care over what their car looks like if they're going to sell it than their house?
You're right.
You wouldn't dream of selling your car if you hadn't washed it.
No.
Because you know that whoever's going to come and see it is going to go, oh, not very impressed with that. It's horrible. It's covered in mud. The inside's terrible. Well, it's not really worth what you're asking. I'll offer you this. Yeah. Exactly the same with a house.
Yeah.
But just bigger money.
Yeah. Bigger chance of losing more.
Bigger chance of losing more. Excellent. Okay, let's go on to Yufi. Have I pronounced your name correctly?
Yeah, correct.
Super. One nugget, something that you've gained from today, Yufi.
Okay, I learned it's now is a property showing market, so we have to upstage our property and have to have the critical eyes.
Very, very good. Good point. Ivona.
I didn't realize how staging and make the house looks perfect and taking perfect pictures can then influence on like having a portfolio of houses which has been sold.
Yes. It is your presentation, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is. It's your life's work.
Yeah.
In real estate.
Yeah.
It's your gallery, isn't it? Imagine that you were to invite someone to your office and it's actually a gallery, and on the wall are photos of each property that you've listed and sold. Yes. You know, I can tell from what Chris has done there, he's really proud of what he did for that property. He'd have no problem putting that into his gallery and bringing a customer to say, look, this is my gallery, this is my work. If he was an artist, he'd be really proud of that. As an agent, you're proud of your artistic flair and what you've done for customers and how great you've made properties look.
Yeah, so, he done excellent job.
He does. He's good. He's really good. That's why we let him come on these calls. We do. Even though he lives in a loft there somewhere, I don't quite know where his loft is, but he works in a loft somewhere in London.
I have just a quick question. Will gym in the garden, in a kind of big shed or log shed, can give extra value in the current situation?
Guys, what do you think? Let's go to Chris.
So I did that in my last property. I spent £17,000 building a gym in the back of my garden that had a sauna in there that cost us £2,000, an electric one, some gym equipment. It was built in timber, it was insulated, and we used plastic cladding around the side, made it look grey and slightly funky, put some decking up there. In fact, I ripped out an old kitchen and put it in, but an old new kitchen from somewhere. I reckon, my wife and I, so we developers for a living, I reckon that, well, we broke the ceiling price for the street. We had square footage that didn't cost as much as what standard square footage was. If you look at COVID now, gyms are empty. And we reckoned we doubled the amount that we put into it, but we also got to use it now. I always like to say for every £1 you spend, you should get a minimum of 3 back. It also, though, in my view, made the house more saleable. Not just necessarily worth more, but more saleable.
If it's done tastefully and it's nice, and it's not just literally a shed and it's falling down, because if you've got a shed that's falling down, you're probably better off pulling it down, opening up the garden, showing far more space than having something rotting in the corner. But if it's a home office or something that can be used as an additional room, like a gym or something like that, I believe with people working from home now more and more, absolutely it's got to add value.
Yeah,
it's got to add value, I would say.
Agree. It's gonna at least add the value of the cost of that building.
Yes.
But more importantly, as Chris said, it's going to add saleability. So if there were 3 houses in the road for sale, all at the same price, which one's going to sell first? Your one's going to sell first.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
Thank you.
Excellent. Good. Any final nuggets from Jason or Chris?
I don't think
Thanks for
so.
that link, Chris.
I don't think so. As I say, you know, if we don't do it, somebody else will. So let's be at the front of that change, because we're going to see bigger stocks and lesser buyers. So we need to make sure that our properties are staged, presented in the best possible way.
Super. Lovely.
And then final one for me, Mr. and Mrs. Clark with an E on the end. Write that down. Nick how they write property descriptions.
Yeah, just don't copy and paste.
No, don't. Definitely don't. You'll get in trouble. Slap wrist.
I have one more question. What if the vendor don't want to contribute toward this extra costs for staging?
Well, it's quite simple, really. What we need to do is you can't force somebody to do it. What you can choose is whether you want to take on that listing or not. Okay, and build a good reputation for yourself. Sometimes it's tough to walk away. Yeah, but actually maybe it's kinder to walk away because perhaps you'll struggle to sell that property, and that's not going to help you in your credibility locally. So you kind of want all of the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle in order to make the correct picture. And if you feel that some of those pieces aren't coming to the table because the vendor is holding back or doesn't want to do this or doesn't want to do that, you know, but it is your own business. You don't have to take it on. You can walk away. And that would be my advice to you, which I know is tough when you're just starting out. But I have a saying, it's not getting what you want, it's wanting what you get.
Yeah. I would also take them to some pain, and I would say to them, how much are you prepared to lose by not doing this? Yeah. Yeah. So think about the question you could ask them. If they say to you, well, I can't afford it, I don't want to spend the money. How much could you lose? How much do you think you could lose by not doing this? Yeah,
the pain.
So take them to some pain. Yeah. Your success in life, the quality of your business has a direct correlation to the quality of your questions. The better your questions, the better you have, the bigger chance you have of being successful and earning what you should earn. So
what is it Gary Keller says? He says, don't try and sell to people, just help them make good decisions.
Yeah.
And that's what you need to do when you're with the vendor, is help them make a good decision to spend a bit of money on the property.
Yeah.
It's much better than telling them they have to do it.
Yeah.
help them self-discover. Show them evidence, show them the photos before and after. You know, there are lots of examples of those. If you just search on the internet for home staging before and after photos, there are photos there that you can actually show someone and say, look, this is a property that isn't staged and this is one that's staged. Which one do you think is going to achieve more money? Use evidence. Use evidence. So, thanks everybody.
Thanks, Lars.
See you next week.
Thanks, Chris.
Cheers.
Good one.
Bye.